There are many different ways to buy Bitcoin, but the cheapest and fastest way to buy Bitcoin with cash is with a coin flip Bitcoin ATM. Coin flip ATMs allow anyone to buy Bitcoin with the lowest fees and within just a few steps. Hi, I'm Amy, and I'm one of the hundreds of store owners who partner with CoinFlip. In this convenient store, we host a CoinFlip Bitcoin ATM. We earn passive income, more foot traffic, and we get free advertising done by the CoinFlip team. Getting the ATM was easy. We just contact the CoinFlip team at info@coinflip.tech, and they handle everything with no cost to the store owner. This includes installation, maintenance, marketing, and even 24/7 customer service. We just provide a small space within the store. To get your own CoinFlip Bitcoin ATM and join the monetary revolution, contact CoinFlip today. info@coinflip.tech or fill out the form at request.coinflip.tech. 773-800-0106.
All right, and we're live, bro. How goes it?
Hey, how's it going, guys? I go by Toma.
Toma.
Thanks for having me, Ken.
Thanks for coming on the podcast, man. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to schedule a chat with me. If you guys are watching this live right now, don't forget every single day somebody wins crypto. Every day somebody wins. All you have to do is like and comment, and 24 hours from now, you'll find out if you're the lucky winner. All you have to do, like, comment, and if you want to go the extra mile, request $10 in USDT from FIO@KENN, FIO@Ken. Maybe you'll get $10. All right, bro. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit? Let people know maybe who you are and how you got into crypto and how that led you to where you're at today in the space.
Well, I guess I've told this story a few times, and I like to, depending on the audience, I'll tell my PC version or non-PC.
Non-PC, please let me opt in for the good one.
Well, so my first exposure to Bitcoin was I used to work at Staples, and Best Buy Geek Squad, right? So I was in Easy Tech, their version of it, and I used to uninstall, install software, wipe out drives, a bunch of remedial stuff for computers. And my boss was actually, he was an alcoholic, but he was also a cybersecurity professor at the local community college. And he actually taught me and my coworkers Tor, Tails, browsers, and then we discovered
all the good
web.
degenerate techie stuff.
Yeah, and so, one day me and my friend were like, hey, so we're on Tor and we're trying to, look at stuff. It seems like we need to get some Bitcoin. I don't know how to do it. And I think the first time, I actually ended up having to get some Bitcoin. I drove 3.5 hours to Richmond, Virginia, and I met someone in a parking lot of Walmart to hand him like $200 in cash, and then he sent me some Bitcoin on his phone there. It was probably the sketchiest deal I've ever done in my life, but I didn't realize at the time that was just normal.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's exactly how Bitcoin worked. Was like shady, very cartel-esque trunk deals in the parking lot of Walmarts. I got mine from somebody who was an adult, a professional sex worker. So I feel that was like the only way to really get Bitcoin back then.
So that was the 2013 to 2014. That was my senior year of high school. I was 17 at the time. I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't look at anything because, to tell you the truth, before I went to university, I was a very hardcore leftist, and I just didn't really believe in sound monetary policy. And some people get more liberal in college. I
was just thinking that exactly. I was like, that's an interesting pivot in college to take.
Yeah, I mean, I realize I liked I would describe myself as a conservative now. I pretty much socially, you should be able to do whatever you want. You should consume whatever you want, and then on a fiscal wise, we just should stop spending money. It's just that easy. But so what happened was I ended up going to university. I went to George Mason University. I was studying Austrian economics, and I didn't know at the time. I only went to the George Mason because my brother went there, and it was in-state, cheap tuition. But I didn't realize I was learning Austrian economics, a very niche form of economics. Globally, 95% of universities do not study it. And I didn't realize I got incredibly lucky. At my university, there's over 8 or 9 econ professors that are advising active blockchain projects, or their papers have actually been the basis for projects like Augur, was based off prediction markets from a professor I had, actually.
Shout out to Jeremy Gardner. Augur's the shit.
And the guy they based the prediction markets with, he's been working on prediction markets for over 20 years. And he never actually gained traction until early 2000s, because he said, and he was getting funding from the government on a grant, because he was using prediction markets to predict where the next terrorist attack was. So it was actually anti-terror modeling could have done it. And then Washington Post, of course, makes a hit piece out, and they're like, it's an assassination market, and bad PR. So then basically all his funding got pulled, and he's been working on it, but no one actually has implemented until Augur.
Yeah, that's why I like Augur. And I mean, prediction markets are really amazing. The problem is they can be gamed, but that's the thing with the mainstream media. Of course, they're not going to talk about anything that has sunshine and rainbows when they could talk about a made-up hurricane around the story, right? It's the doomsday porn. Bitcoin's for drugs instead of Bitcoin's for freedom. That's kind of like their philosophy in the mainstream when it comes to perpetuating new technologies. So yeah, of course, when somebody makes a prediction market that could kind of obfuscate terrorism attacks and try to prepare for them ahead of time, they're going to use that against you, not for you, unfortunately.
Yeah, but so I realized at the time, all of this stuff, and while this was happening, I was studying economics at Mason. I actually ran into one of my friends, and in my econ 103 class, it was honestly the Social Network type movie situation, where he was like, one day after class, he came up to me. It was like a 6-foot autistic kid. And he was like, hey, do you think taxation is theft? And I had to pause and think about it, because no one's ever asked me that. And I thought, and I was like, yeah, I think I do. And then his next question was like, hey, you want to come to an anarchist Halloween party? There's a bunch of free booze. And I was like, I'm a broke college freshman. So I was like, all right, I'm in. And next minute I know, I'm talking to this guy, I'm with some friends, and eventually started a think tank, actually.
Oh, cool.
Working on special economic zones, free trade zones, avenues like Shenzhen, Hong Kong, Singapore, models of governance that can be replicated, reproduced, and transplanted in other areas. There's always countries that open up we want more outside capital, we want more entrepreneurship, we want to drive business here. How can we do this? But it's very simple. How do you lower the barrier to entry to do a business? How easy is it for me to set up an LLC, open a bank account? It's either you have zones of low regulation or no regulation, low taxes or no taxes. And the theory on special economic zones is laws and governance always are wide arching. So what happens is you have a law like in the US on a federal level, it'll affect everyone, like Obamacare, right? But it's not that deep. It's universally all around, but it's not very deep in innovation or even experimenting. A special economic zone is you take a very small section, a small piece of land. It could be literally a couple miles, a strip of 2-mile strip, right? And what you're doing is you're experimenting in new forms of governance, not at a shallow level, but extremely, extremely deep, but in a very small controlled area that you can experiment and control. And then eventually some of those policies will work, some won't, but eventually you'll figure out which ones are driving the business. And then you can eventually adopt that. You can see that in China. After Shenzhen's success in 40 years, turning from a fishing village into the Silicon Valley of the East, it's honestly easier to be a capitalist in China right now than it is in America, actually.
Interesting.
And people don't understand this. And it's because the CCP, there's 1 billion people in China, and they need all these AI algorithms to track everyone, to do this and that. If you just have, at the end of the day, governments are incompetent everywhere. If we think our own government or US is the best country in the world, but we still see incompetence on the highest levels, to intelligence, to enforcements, to regulation, they're no different. I see the CCP and United States Congress as two sides of the same coin. And really, it's just a matter of I don't see how anyone can use their SEC or IRS or FTC regulatory moats and say that we're a free capitalist society. We're not. We're a crony capitalist society. It's all about who can extort and create these regulatory moats. The biggest example is the bit license in New York was literally created by a politician that knew he wasn't going to get reelected, and he passed a bullshit law and regulation. And then what does he do after? It's impossible to get a bit license.
Unless you hire him, unless you hire the guy who made it.
And then private consulting, blah, blah, blah. Hey, I know exactly how you can get a bit license. / I still have friends in New York State. And it's just, I would say that also one of the really groundbreaking moments for me was realizing that while I was during university, I always heard, the reason I stayed in university as long as I did was one of the professors, Brian Kaplan, actually wrote a book called Why College is a Scam, and you should not, I'm paraphrasing, but it's like, why college is a scam and you should not go. And I was like, hey, dude, if this guy's actually telling me this straight up, like, I gotta stay. Like, this guy's actually telling the truth. And the funny thing was, I was by my sophomore year, you know, I'm taking upper level econ classes, and that's when it got really interesting to me because my classmates didn't really care because they just saw the theory. They didn't understand what's so crazy about a prediction market or other forms of non-bindable contracts or this or that. But at the same time, I was learning about blockchain. I was getting paid in Bitcoin at the time.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
And
respect.
Not really. For like 3 years, it was, you know, I got started getting paid in 2015. I waited almost 3 years for a bull run. And, you know, I realized I was making less than like $10,000. I was making like $8,000 or $10,000 a year. If I did the math, if I worked at McDonald's minimum wage, I would have made more. However, you know, the saddest feeling is you're at a bar and you can't, the girl's like, hey, can you buy me a drink? And I tell them like, oh yeah, do you accept Bitcoin? And the guy just laughs at me like, shut the fuck up.
It's like,
dude.
Look, babe, I'm cash poor. You know, all my funds, they ain't liquid. They're in crypto right now.
And you know, you sound ridiculous.
You do though, especially back then. Nowadays though, bro, you say, hey, do you accept Bitcoin? Oh man, bro, you got like 5 more girls asking for drinks nowadays. But back then, yeah, dude, you might as well have been, you know, trying to trade or barter a glory hole transaction.
Yeah, but you know what, I like bear markets more.
Same.
Developing than bull markets. Developing in a bull market is extremely toxic. I don't talk about price action or price because I think they're bottom of the barrel humans. They're not even humans. They're subhumans that provide liquidity to exchanges or pretty much to fill positions to get liquidated. And I realized after talking to developers, this or that, there are probably I would guess there's less than 2,000 Ethereum developers in the world that are actually competent in the world. And 99% of the value extracted from blockchain and public goods are from these traders. They are the ones actually getting rich. I know a lot of developers who have gone broke, like Andre, who spent $70,000 on gas deployments. You know, this stuff isn't cheap. And, you know, people don't want to support public goods or open blockchain projects and support their developers. And it's sort of tough. Like you have guys like Andres Antonopoulos. He's like cyber begging with a Patreon and like, oh, thank you for supporting me, this or that. I'm like, how many of you guys are literally multi-millionaires right now or almost billionaires because you watch an Andre video in 2011 and you won't even give him a couple bucks, like $10,000 to just so he can pay his rent? Like, come on, dude, that's just, that is a definition of toxicity, selfishness, and the negative energy of when greed and stacking sats or whatever that mentality is. I don't think it's good, because you get away from the point. Like, the only reason people care about magic internet money is when you post returns, right? Like you said, you posted your NFT returns, I believe recently on Facebook, and everyone's like, oh wow, 20,000, what is, like, that's crazy, like, how do I do my own NFTs? Or you'll post about a shitcoin you bought 6 months ago because, hey, you actually met a developer at a conference in real life, and you're like, wow, there's actually someone working on this.
Facts.
I'm gonna buy it. You're like, if someone's actually working on it IRL at going places and talking about it, then I as well speculate on it.
Yep.
And then it magically pumps because they're actually working on it. It's legit. And then you're like, oh, how can I get 5,000% return, 2,000% return? Or, last 6 months, how can I get 3,000 APY on my food tokens? That's what attracts new retail. We need new money to come into the market, this or that. But honestly, I just don't want to attract those people. Pretty much, I noticed the biggest difference was going from a consensus to an Ethereum hackathon. Like consensus in 2018, right? That was the peak of cancer. I think it was like $9,000 for a ticket. And I got so many cards. Oh, I'm an ICO, STO advisor. And then I see them like 2 years later, and they're like doing CBD deals. And then now this past year, they're doing PPE deals. And they're like shamelessly doing PPE OTC deals while they still have ICO, STO advisor on their like header on LinkedIn. And it's just like, these are the people I don't want to talk about, because all they think about is, how can I get rich? How can I extract value from you?
They're parasites.
What can you provide me? And I'm like, what do you actually provide? Like, you don't do anything. Like, and honestly, you make the space look even worse. Like, I'd wish you just buy. Like, I'm not saying you shouldn't buy. Everyone can participate, this or that. But I think you probably shouldn't talk about it. Like, you should. I just don't think it's okay. Then I go to an Ethereum. I went to ETH Denver this year. Ethereum was like 130, 140 bucks in January, February, that crash happened. And I remember there's not a single person there that talked about price for the whole 3-day weekend. Not a single person. Every single conversation I had was about deep ETH2 infrastructure rollouts or current Ethereum layer 2 solutions, criticizing, a lot of projects, a lot of DeFi stuff. But the thing is, no one got upset if they got criticized, because they weren't financially motivated or tied to their bags. I could crap on a coin, and I'm actually talking to one of the devs, and I'm like, oh, well, whoops. And I'm like, yeah, sorry, you guys got hacked like 2 times past month. And they're like, yeah, dude, I understand. They're not butthurt about it, because they understand. They take criticism. They understand, as engineers, we need to create better products. We need better testing, and hacks are good for the DeFi community.
Yep.
It only strengthens the value of protocols. It will ensure people, the TLV will end up increasing over the long term.
A hack is a pre-update. That's all. Yeah, right before an update happens, a hack happens, but that we need those things to happen to progress and make things better, for sure. I'm curious how you see this technology, making things better or worse when it comes to this, because it sounds like you're more of like an FA guy, me as well, fundamentals over technicals, but a lot of like the majority of the population getting into the space wants a TA. They want their signal to be a TA signal. They don't look for the FA signals. I talk to developers, but most people talk to traders.
So that's the problem. So I've been doing Solidity development for 3 years now, and I still don't know Solidity. It's crazy. Like it's actually that insane. It is what I think why they like TA is because you can allow a lot of people who've been trading stocks, forex, whatever skills they had before crypto, and when they entered, it's pretty much the same, right? You know, you're just going off pure mathematics at that point, risk reward ratios, 50-day moving averages. The problem they don't have with fundamentals is to understand the fundamentals of why a coin or why it has utility. You would have to understand what is the purpose of it? Why is this important for developers? Why is this important for infrastructure? Some of the best projects are boring as shit, and like
I
you
said this a
wouldn't.
million times.
The most past 3 years, most of the development I know has been on very boring interoperability between chains, cross-platform atomic swaps, whatever it may be. And the interoperability has been increasing between chains. And I don't blame someone, you know, if you're trying to understand the fundamental analysis value of, let's say, Monero, right? A privacy coin. Do you know encryption? Do you know why the Monero bulletproof algo is better than others or this or that? You're like, dude, I can't even make a WordPress website. I just know how to trade. You know, I can make a Binance account. I can open an option. I can do that. But, you know, it's just a simple problem. Like you can't just tell someone to learn, oh, everyone just learn how to code, right? That's not helpful. And really, it's a lack of content. The lack of content is simply because that's really what I have problem with is the traders just take up so much of crypto Twitter or YouTube, and they're just filling the space with noise. It's just a lot of noise at the end of the day. I'm not saying it's bad or good. It's just, but it's noise. It's not, you're not going to impact or change anyone's life. There's very few people making instructional content that's they're not shilling like Ivan on Tech. Like Ivan on Tech, what happened to him, man? I thought when I first met him, he was a good guy. His videos came out incredibly well, this or that. And then 3 years later, now he's scamming his followers with his NFT, which I think is bullshit because he did that like 2 years ago. And it's also he has his I'll go in on right now. Actually, I think the Ivan Tech certificate program. I think right now, if I see him, if I see that you have a certified in Bitcoin expertise, whatever certification it is, just get the fuck out of here. Like, what the hell?
I'm with you. I do fucks with Ivan, but I'm 100% with you. If anybody came at me with a certificate of Bitcoin expertise, get the fuck away from me, please.
Okay, how about this? If you had a Solidity developer and you asked him where he got his, how he learned Solidity, and he told you, oh, I have a certificate from Ivan Tech Academy, would you hire that guy?
Probably not, but I would fucks with a Bitcoin developer that got trained by Jimmy Song.
Yes.
So there are some, cloud. Yeah, exactly. There are some people that do that. That's more FA though than TA. Jimmy's.
I mean, how about this consensus right now? If you have a certificate from, you did the Consensus Academy, right? I would take that as a legitimate company that has authority because they have like 90% of the Ethereum infrastructure. They own it, and more importantly, their founder is one of the founders of Ethereum. So that is a when everything is decentralized and anybody can be anybody, right? There is like why people are drowning in college debt or this or that. It's always about credentials, this or that, right? It's just signaling to people that you are competent, that you're expert, this or that. And when you have to signal with credentials but not your actual work and what you've been doing, then that's a bad signal for me. That's not a signal I want. Some of the best people I've ever met are like high school dropouts, and if you ask them, hey, what have you been working on past 12 months? They'll pull up their website, show you exactly what they're doing. Hey, I'm doing this, and they get jobs faster than someone who thought in theory for a longer time.
That's a really good point. I think you're right. It's in this space right now, since we've had such a decent winter, a lot of infrastructure has been built. A lot of people have started to do a lot more research, and they're like the average user that we had from like 2015 through that bull run, through the winter, are more educated. And as more people come into the space, a lot more enthusiasts are becoming educators. You know, not by maybe becoming as big as Ivan, but they're micro impact impact is as strong as a lot of the other macro impacts that influencers have. So as more and more people get into this space, hopefully with the way of the fundamentals instead of the technicals, we'll have that mesh network of on-ramping where like it'll be more genuine, more natural on-ramping than the deity on-ramp that we've had the past decade, where it was just a couple people like Andreas Antonopoulos kind of leading the way with education. I think we're going to see, it's funny to say this, but I'll see that information become more decentralized as more people come into the space. I think this is a very momentary problem. I don't think we'll see price FOMO, being the catalyst that, triggers on-ramping after the next year or two. Like once this, we're getting corporate, involvement. Institutions are investing in the hundreds of millions. We're going to see less price movement matter and more fundamental movement matter. But we have to get past that all-time high barrier. I think. I'm not sure, like, where do you stand? Do you think, like, we'll always be worrying about the next moon? Or do you think, that proverbial moon may, kind of be pushed to the side when we talk about moon, we're thinking, money movement. I think the next moon will be interoperability and adoption and acceptance. So we'll get away from when moon price and we'll get towards when moon adoption after this year of all-time high, because all the institutions, I mean, look, even PayPal's getting into Bitcoin. I mean, it's like going to be talking about fax machine technology in 2 years because it'll be so standard and ubiquitous to our everyday lives. I'm hopeful that we'll see the fundamentals take over inevitably without any consequence to technicals.
That's a good point. I'd say that I think community, not fundamentals or TA, I think community will drive the next decade of adoption. And that's simply because
but community is part fundamental.
That fair enough. I would say the driving force is like how many new Coinbase wallets can you really do? Exactly. How many new Binance accounts can you really open? This or that. How in video games, as I'll say this, in League of Legends, it's been out for over 10 years. Actually, it's almost about the same age as Bitcoin, actually. And what has happened with League of Legends as a free-to-play game? It's the most popular game in the world. They do over $1 billion in sales a year.
They get more eyes than the Super Bowl. I know that much.
Just to sell skins. And what has happened throughout the game is after each season, the level of skill, it's called skill creep, right? There's more people playing, they've been playing longer, and then eventually everyone collectively just gets better and better and better. So then the play becomes higher and higher. And so what you're seeing right now is crypto, some people are on their second, their third, or even fourth Bitcoin cycle now. So now we're going to see, if you were one of the 2017 FOMOers, right, you're going to be actually on your second cycle now for the first time. And this second cycle for them, you're already going to have your Coinbase account. You're already going to have a Binance account. You're going to have a BitREX. You're going to know how to trade. And there's going to be people, and the skill creep will increase. And that will make them, when you increase the skill gap, you'll make more money. And when you can make more money, you will be more confident to put more liquidity and more capital, and you won't be scared. Instead of, I fundamentally see why Cosmos, why Atom is valuable. Atom is valuable because it's the gas fee, it is the energy. It's like oil, data, whatever, for the network. It has a use case. You have to pay an Atom to lower fees. So, and then, maybe in 2016, 2017, I don't know if Atom or Cosmos was even out then, but you would have probably put in $200 because at the time, majority of people are broke. Majority of people don't have more than, what do they say, like 70% of Americans don't have more than $600 in their savings account.
70% of Americans don't have $1,000 in case of emergencies.
So if you don't even have $1,000, right, how are you going to convince someone like, dude, you got to throw it all in there like that? Like, come on, man, that's a toxic mentality. And I think that's speaking from incredible privilege, and it's not good. But now, one of the best Reddit posts I saw was this guy was, hey, I actually just acquired one Bitcoin after almost 2 years working a minimum wage job by dollar cost averaging. And I was like, wow, if this guy could do it, he's probably making $15,000-$20,000 minimum wage per year, right? But I just thought about this. Wow, if he has been doing this since 2018, his that one BTC that he saved up $3,000. That's a lot of money for these people. Like you said, $1,000. They don't even have that. So he saved up almost 3K accumulating asset over 2 years. And what's going to happen? I think Bitcoin by the end of 2021 is going to be 80,000 around there, 66, 80, 100K, whatever. It'll go up there. And that guy in 1 year off that will make more money than his past salary for the past 2 years combined.
That's true.
And that is a power of investment. That is a power of appreciation and understanding. Don't buy in depreciating assets. Don't buy into this consumerism toxicity of, clout chasing and, whatever it may be. It's not healthy for the mind. And honestly, holding, I think, is like the most Zen Buddhist monk-like way of thinking about life. It's like, I believe in this asset on a fundamental level. The reason I accepted Bitcoin when it was $300 for payment, I wasn't able to spend it. I could maybe buy some drugs off the Silk Road with it. That's about it, right? At the time.
Maybe a pizza from Papa John's.
But the reason I did it was I didn't really care about the money. I wasn't trading. I mean, I was a little bit, but it wasn't that much. It was like there's no volume. Bitcoin tickers take 4 hours, not like 10 minutes. So it was hard to do. And the reason I even did it and I accepted for so long was because I fundamentally believed in the idea of decentralization, the idea of self-sovereign individuals. I read this book by Prince Hans Adam. He's actually the Prince of Liechtenstein, and he wrote this book called The State in the Third Millennium, and how a nation state can actually progress to the point that they have no power at all. You can form an absolute monarchy, and then you have all the power, but then your whole philosophy, this is Liechtenstein, basically their whole royal family has all the power. They can veto parliament, do this or that, but their whole philosophical ideas is they don't believe in that. They believe in self-sovereignty, and every small county, Liechtenstein is like 30-mile long country, but it's one of the richest GDPs in Europe. Every small county in Liechtenstein can actually secede and form their own nation. It's actually legally binding. That's the power granted to them.
Has anybody done that yet? Has anybody used that out?
No, because they don't mind.
Why would they? Exactly.
Because why? The Prince Hans Adams, he can do this or that, but he doesn't. He's like, I have all the power vested in me, and I'll tell you exactly what I'm going to do with it. Absolutely nothing. You can live your life, do what you want to do, and that is, I think that is the next step. And the idea of censorship-proof technology, I was really inspired. The reason I was even on, the dark web, this or that, was I was in high school. I was reading about Aaron Swartz, what happened to him. I was really influenced by Assange. I was influenced by Snowden, and unintentionally Ross. And it felt full circle to me when I started my journey, using Ross's website, and then I ended up meeting Lynn Oberg, and that actually really hit me hard, because I just saw her and I realized, man, this guy is serving triple life for fucking making a website, and like guys like me are wearing nice suits and I can go to conferences, people pay to hear me speak. Like I was like, wow, I actually, it really hit home to me on why this stuff is important on a deeper level. And really, it's about empowering people. It's empowering people's lives, that they feel victimhood. They have the companies in their countries are extremely exploitive and extracting all their resources from them. Their governments are extracting all their taxpayer dollars and extorting their livelihoods. And they have nothing. They're making, and even if they do work an honest job, they work, they hustle, they grind, they do that Gary V life, right? What do you do when your currency depreciates 20% every year over year? And and you're being robbed of the value that you have created and provided to society. And really, it's about taking control over your own life, taking personal agency, taking um,
Yeah, people don't want
whatever
this.
it,
People don't want that. I mean, I'll tell you, and I've said this before when we talk about being, unbanked and be your own bank. The majority of the average people do not want this responsibility at all. They have no interest in even taking on this burden of a responsibility called financial freedom and self sovereignty. The average people love scapegoatism. They love to have somebody that they can blame when something inevitably goes wrong, rather than themselves. When you look in the mirror every morning brushing your teeth, it's you that you have to blame when something goes wrong as a self sovereign individual, rather than just say, oh, well, it was Wells Fargo's fault. There's nothing I could do. It's just the way the world works. Like, people like that shit. And it's really hard to try and convince the average person that's used to having a scapegoat, out card to play, to come into a space where you yourself are to blame when things go wrong, but you also get all the credit when things go right. That's a very uncomfortable situation to put the average individual in.
well, I mean, really, I've realized evangelizing blockchain, this or that. Some people are just stuck, and that's fine. You can't red pill everybody.
Yep.
Morpheus didn't just scoop up everyone and anyone.
Facts.
That just the
Some people
99%.
belong in the Matrix and they fucking like it.
I mean, they do live in the matrix. If you get paid a 9 to 5, you accept US dollars and you pay taxes, you live in a matrix. The matrix is the United States. The difference is the matrix in the United States is actually very good. It's a very good fake world. But, you know, to me, um, I, I believe in effective altruism. I don't believe you should give up on them just because they're an NPC now doesn't mean they're on hope or whatever. But that also doesn't mean you have opportunity costs as well. You spending hours trying to convince somebody that's not going to do anything is a waste of time. But now you have someone who tells you, hey, I'm sort of interested in this, but I don't really know what I'm doing, or this is confusing. I don't know what to listen to. That is someone you need to spend time with. That is someone that I'm happy to spend time
That's
with.
the Neo,
And
somebody who heard about the red pill, who knows about the red pill, who's looking for that white rabbit to follow. That's why Morpheus took the time out. We got to find the people that are looking for us, while we're looking for them, and we have to find each other at the right time.
Well, I think the reason is, Ken, me and you, we live in the U.S., right? And no one needs Bitcoin. You don't need. I tell
I
people
like
all the
this
time.
guy. I really like this guy, bro. You're right. We don't.
No, why do you need Bitcoin? You have access to U.S. banking. You have access to U.S. dollars, strongest currency in the world. You have access to some of the most robust credit markets in the world to get loans from all levels, private loans, loan sharks, subprime loans, whatever it is, right? You have access to so much capital. People don't understand credit, debt, and all this. Debt has been ruling the world for 5,000 years. Debt is what drives economies and finances, but they don't understand the concept of good debt and bad debt. Good debt is when your debt is against a house, right? Oh, you're in debt in a mortgage, but that's okay because whatever you're paying, it's appreciating in value over time. A bad debt is a car loan that the second you drive off. It's simple stuff like that. And fundamentally, they don't need a lifeboat because they're already safe. There's nothing to save them from. They're not on a sinking ship. Societally, I think the US is dying. I think the West is dying, but it will take 50 years for that to play out. This stuff doesn't happen over time. This takes nation states develop over decades because monetary policies happen and their effects won't be felt for years and administrations down the road. And there's no accountability for it. We're being affected by policies made by people who are not in power anymore. They're actually just profiting off it. They're the ones I think senators, presidents, and regulators should be barred by law to work in the industry that they regulated. I actually believe in Andrew Yang's policy. He says, make the salary president $4 million, make the treasury secretary $1 million, make them competitive CEO wages so that they can live a good life. Because if you spend 60, 70 years of your life as a public servant, you did what you were supposed to do, and you should be rewarded for that. You should be able to live a comfortable life,
100%
and you shouldn't, and you should be able to send your kid to a good school and
Well,
whatever.
make it so they don't have to sell out too, man. So they can't
Exactly.
be bought in. Why would I risk my job where I get millions for a couple 100,000 just to have a shady backdoor handshake? When no, make it so. And I'm with you on this, and that exactly, because the same people that don't want to raise government wages are the same people that want to raise minimum wage. They want the teachers to be paid more because they see that if the teachers are paid more, maybe they'll give a shit more about the kids they're teaching. But they don't want to pay our government officials more. The president needs to make more than fucking Elon Musk. That way Elon Musk wants to be the president.
I actually remember this quote from Justice League Unlimited, and they're asking Lex Luthor, "Oh, do you want to be president?" And he laughed at him. And he says, "Do you know how much power I would have to give up to be president?" And that quote has actually always stuck with me. And I never realized it until actually in crypto, when going to third world countries, operating in, well, they're not called third world, that's not PC, developing markets, right? I've met finance ministers, I've met central bank policymakers, and they ask me like, "Oh, what is this or that?" And I realized like, wow, I'm actually able to just straight up talk to this guy right now. I've seen deals get struck. I've seen sandbox deals work. I've talked to regulators. I've done this stuff. And I realized like these guys, some of them have good intentions. Some really do care. At a certain level, they have to have care. They care about their nationality. They care about their ethnicity. They care about their culture. But then what happens at the end of the day is they see the dollar signs in their eyes, and you're an emerging market, and it's not that good. But hey, listen, I'll give you $1 million in your Swiss or Panama account, or better yet, I'll give it into your Bitcoin wallet, and no one even needs to know about this. I would tell anyone that they acts morally superior, that, "Oh, I would never do it, that's ethically this or that." Ethics get really blurred at high numbers, and it's really hard to do it because it's not just, oh, my headphones died. It's not just life-changing money for you, it's generationally life-changing. You're not securing your own future, you're securing your grandkids, and everything, like a couple generations down. And I don't blame them for wanting that. I don't blame them for doing it, because it's all in their self-interest. If people just acknowledge that it is self-interest, they acknowledge that they have incentives to look out for themselves, I think that's okay. I don't think you working in your self-interest is not illogical. You shouldn't be ashamed about it. You have 3 layers of caring. You need to take care of yourself first, then your family, and then your friends last. After that circle, most people don't care. They don't care about other people. I don't care what they say. They morally signal this or that, where you can see where their dollars are actually spent, with their volunteer times actually spent, what they're doing, and that's not what they're actually about. And and that's okay. And to me, movements like this are more important, because I saw also, last year I was in Hong Kong during the protests, and I went to Genesis Block, one of the biggest OTC desks in the space. And even the bear market, like $3,000 Bitcoin, they're doing 30, I think close to 20 or $30 million of volume a day.
Okay.
And that's because of the capital flow restrictions. That's because of all of the censorship in Southeast Asian countries, China, and all these other countries. And that is the power. Like, they're so desperate to get their money out that, like, what's the point of me being worth $500 million in China when the government can seize it from me at any point? Are you really worth that? Do you really own anything? And, once I saw the Hong Kong protests, and I saw like, wow, this is a way for people can actually, like, holy crap, the CCP can come in and seize my accounts, take everything, take my livelihood away because I retweeted Winnie the Pooh on my Twitter. And, that means my life is destroyed. These, at the end of the day, we should not choose. Everyone tries to say, what is the best form of government? What is the best form for a society framework to look in? I think that's a fucked up way of looking at it, because it always ends up, the best intentions have the worst results. And, I think we should focus on what is the form of government that will cause the least form of violence, the least form of oppression, and that's it. How can we reduce government censorship, government violence? And governments have monopoly on violence. And if you don't believe in that, just look at police brutality. They can beat the shit out of you, but you try to sue them, they have immunity. You have a U.S. soldier do war crimes across somewhere else, they have immunity. There's no tribunals. That is called a monopoly on violence. And how is that supported? By the, everyone says, what is U.S. dollars backed by? I'll tell you what U.S. dollar is backed by. It is backed by Boeing, Northrop Grumman, all these defense agencies. And that's really what it is. It's the United States. Like the crazy statistic is people don't realize how big the U.S. industrial and military complex is. It's insane. The biggest air force in the world is the United States Air Force. The second biggest air force in the world is the United States Navy. And, all of these tools, after I saw, Snowden talk about this, reveal this, and I was like in high school, senior year, and this is a crazy thing. James Clapper, right?
Yeah.
His son was my high school IT teacher.
Okay. So you had an interesting in at the time.
Yeah, I actually got in trouble. I actually got in trouble by him because he caught me hacking my school computer and all this. And I realized I didn't realize in the implications. I would honestly, the more I think about it now, if I could go back, I would go back and tell him, it's like, hey, can you give a letter to your dad? And it would be like, and I would trap him like, hey, I want to interview your dad. And I actually had an opportunity to interview his dad. I did high school video stuff. And I really regret not doing it because I never thought it was that important at the time. But, dumb 17-year-old is more interested in Silk Road than governance. So
I can respect that, though.
I would tell them, I was like, bro, you lied to the American people flat out. You are, that was the most fucked up betrayal and anti-patriotism that I've ever seen. And, to me, I view it as I spent a lot of time debating stuff like this in college or whatever. And then in my think tank called Startup Societies, we had a quote. It was called "Don't argue, build." One of the advisors is actually Balaji, and Balaji has this great tweet about, don't complain about taxis, build the next Uber. Don't complain about US dollar, create Bitcoin. All of these systems are inherently flawed. They work on a basis level, but for 95% of people. But then they really don't work for a lot of marginalized communities that most people don't care about. And I thought, I could spend my time lobbying or trying to make change within the government or do this or that. And I realized that was just a waste of time. I need to create. I can't expect the government to come up for a solution for me. I need to come up with this solution. I need to work towards the solution. Buckminster Fuller says, you do not change a system from within. You create a new system that makes the previous system obsolete. And that is it is the only peaceful, voluntary transition of power, because it happens not out of coercion. It is not out of violence. It is simply, I think this is better, and I'm gonna go over there. And I think there's projects like Charter Cities Institute that are trying to build innovative cities. Akon's project in Senegal, I think, is great. There's a lot of new special economic zones coming in Brazil. In the UK with Brexit, they're actually doing free trade ports like Singapore is. So you're seeing all of these governments. There's a decentralization and all the old blocks. The EU is collapsing within itself. The Asia blocks are, they're all pretty much sticking to themselves. And I think we're gonna, we're entering the hyper globalization, and with the passage of stablecoins is probably the best killer app in the past 5 years, and no one really thinks about that. Why? It's boring infrastructure. It's boring. No one wants to call a stablecoin this or that. But how many DeFi projects that if DAI didn't exist wouldn't even be able to function?
All of them. I mean, yeah, I've been saying this for a while too, as well, man. Like stable coins are very underappreciated by our community. When I say our community, I mean the crypto community, because it's not sexy and it
Well,
almost feels like
I think we should
retro.
distinct this: the trader community versus the developer community.
There you go.
Developers know how powerful the DAI is. They understand. Traders, they're like, oh, I can use this for arbitrage. I can get leverage with it. That's what but that's the thing. They have utility for two different purposes. It's used.
Sure.
It's a stable coin. Developers use it for one thing as critical infrastructure backbone for pairs they're making, whatever it is. Traders use it for extreme leverage opportunities to make swings that they normally wouldn't have. And all of these things, like, to me, one of my projects right now is actually I'm doing a wallet in Ghana right now. And I
I saw that.
realized,
That's the Dinar app, right?
yes, so dinar.io is, we're on Android, Apple,
Yeah,
and
I just downloaded it on my phone earlier. It looks good. It works. I like it. What is it exactly for though in Ghana? Because I obviously it's not for me.
no. So, well, it is, well, if you are a diaspora, if you are someone from Ghana and you want to send money back to your family in Ghana,
Oh,
it is
so
good.
okay, that's cool.
Because what we have right now is we have mobile money and US banking. We use Plaid, so when you connect your bank account, it's the same as Coinbase, whatever. um, Really, mobile money in Africa is huge because of US banking restrictions on a lot of African countries. Using their bank account is really bad, and so mobile money became popular in Africa and South
Now,
America.
when you say
Like,
mobile money, you're talking like cell phone minutes and stuff like that.
no, no, no,
No?
no. Mobile money, as in, it's actually, have you heard of M-Pesa? It's probably one of the most famous projects. You should look it up. So what the idea is, you have your mobile money is your bank account is your phone provider. So instead of storing your money on Wells Fargo, Bank of America, imagine Verizon or Sprint is actually your bank
That
account as
scares me
well.
more. I actually have never paid Verizon. I've never paid a phone bill in my life.
Well, the idea is this. It's because there's more cell reach than there's bank reach in Africa. And the whole idea is that you can actually send and receive money just through text messages with their accounts and this or that. And so we've integrated MTN, Vodafone, about four mobile money providers, and they drive most of our volume.
And this isn't crypto. This is like, they're.
No, this is just pure fiat.
Oh,
This
wow.
is this isn't SETI, and this is simply because they can't. It's easier for them. There's no fees for it. It's a lot cheaper, and it's really because you can use a really shitty flip phone to do it. You don't need a new Android. You don't even need an old Android. You can literally use a Razr phone from 15 years ago, and it's still compatible as long as it has a SIM card slot.
Okay.
And so um, we have that. We have the um, U.S. banking for people in America that want to send some money back home to their family members. And then third, we're about to release our Bitcoin wallet. We're waiting on regulatory approval right now. I can't really talk about that much, but we did have a meeting with the SEC of Ghana, and we're working right now on a regulatory sandbox to bring more fintech and blockchain companies into Ghana and make it a favorable place for people to incorporate. And we'll be one of the first companies in that sandbox. But
Respect.
and the whole idea is, it's the interconnection of all 3 points. You have your mobile money, you have access to African markets. Once you integrate U.S. banking with Plaid or Stripe or Wire, you have access to U.S. banking infrastructure. And then third, you have the Bitcoin wallet. Then you have access to the global markets. So they all have different purposes, and that was the ultimate goal. And projects like this, I realized why they matter was because there's no one else doing this. Like, people care. Like, I see people talk all the time about, oh, we need to help third world countries, we need to do this or that. How many of them are willing to fly out there, talk to regulators, start building, go up to your local banana merchant and explain to him why he needs a QR code system? So really, the app also is a QR code. It's a mix between Venmo and WeChat. So what we do is we also have merchants. And what happened was we launched it like about a year ago, but we gained maybe like 22,000 users over like 3 months. It was pretty difficult at first. And then Corona happened. And what happened is our QR code system, any merchant can just set up a stand with our QR code and accept money that way for their payments. And basically, when Corona happened, the government made an edict that you should avoid cash transactions. And suddenly, our servers went down because we're having the most amount of downloads. Like
That's a good problem.
It was a good problem, but it was still pretty it's pretty tough. But that is like that's how most people use it. And I I hate on regulation, I hate on governments, but I still swallow my pride because I work with governments, I work with regulators. Because at the end of the day, I want to legitimize the space. I want to professionalize it, on credibility. But more importantly, if I don't do that, then the product won't get released. And there's someone out there that is trying to save their money, that is trying to save value to create future for themselves and their family, and they don't have a tool to do it. I'm a builder. I'd like to give you that tool. I'd like to give you something that you can use to, escape out of that.
Can I poke the altruistic bear here?
Yes.
How do you make money? How does this make money? I mean, everything that exists, right, has to be somewhat profitable. It can't just be altruistic. Transaction fees.
What else?
All right. Yeah, there's no sign-up fees. There's no monthly subscription. It's just transaction fees for the standard currency.
Coinbase model.
Okay, I dig it. So is there like a referral program or anything like that for people that are in the area that are using the Dinar.io model? Is there any like...
Yeah, we did. We ran out of money for that. What happened was...
That's fucking great, bro. I'm sorry, but that is great. He said ran out of money.
What happened was like... The referral program was like budgeted out for because we were off like 2,000 users in 3 months, right? So we actually budgeted a referral program for okay, at this current growth, whatever, we didn't expect a spike or whatever. So just steady user increase. So all right, well, we can budget out this much, 30,000 for about 3 or 4 months. And 30,000 USD is actually a fuck ton of money because what we were doing was you got one SETI. If you referred me, right? You would receive one SETI, I'd receive one SETI. One SETI is like 1 to 4 or 1 to 5. So it was about 40 cents, or it's like 20 cents. One SETI is like 20, 30 cents. It was about 40 cents USD per customer acquisition cost. And that was actually really, really cheap. And so what happened was that, I didn't think one SETI was that big of a deal. I didn't think you would go on Twitter or on Facebook or WhatsApp. But when people actually realized that they signed their friend up for it and they actually received their SETI and then withdrew it to their actual mobile money account, like the one they control off our app, right? They're like, wow, this is actually real. Holy shit. It went insane. People went crazy. They were getting their mom, grandmas, it was nuts. And so we got almost 30,000 users and less than probably we got about 10,000 users in 3 days.
Now, are these real users with some form of KYC, or is there a chance that
yes,
you
we
could
have
have been bought?
Yeah, we have KYC. So
okay.
they're all legit.
So they're no bots. That is impressive.
And so, and we and also, you can KYC using just their cell number.
Right.
Just text. And that was also another cost that sort of wrecked us was the Twilio costs. What had happened was we didn't realize that Twilio, when they send text messages, it's from a US number. And so we were sending from a US number text messages to 10,000 people to an African number. So the Twilio cost for per user was for that text was actually, you had to pay international rate for it. So we actually had to create our own, backend system to get a African number to use that instead, and that lower cost. But this is part of running a startup, right? You're literally falling out of the sky trying to build your parachute at the same time.
You can see you have a lot of ingenuitivity that you have a lot of resource that you apply to your projects, which are really cool. I liked when I went as soon as I saw that you scheduled, I checked it out on the App Store and I started checking it out. I thought that was a really cool use case, but the more you talk about it, it seems like a lot of people wouldn't think it's just cool. It's just like it's detrimental to quality of life for a lot of people, especially like you said during the quarantine where people are being told maybe don't use cash as much. Now they have this alternative that you created, which that's got to feel pretty badass, bro. Like,
I mean, I would say like the crazy thing is like people like ask us all the time, like, so I did this thing where I emailed 100 of like our first users that were still there, like our first users and that are still using like our power users. And I scheduled like 10 Zoom calls with the people who responded. And I was like, what do you use Dinar for? And I heard some like really like crazy stuff that I never even thought of. One guy is like an Uber driver. And what happens is some person will come in, book the ride or whatever, or get a taxi, and he'll say, all right, this is a cost, but this, whatever that happened on it, they take a cut. Uber takes a cut, right? So instead you're like, oh yeah, just cancel a ride. We'll charge that amount. Just send it to my Dinar wallet. My QR code is right behind his seat. Just QR code, just scan it right here and send it to this.
I respect that. That's the kind of hustler I like to see, where they're just like, yo, it's like going to a business and they're like, it's $1.07. I'm like, all I got is $1. They're like, all right, forget about the tax. Just give us the cash, take your stuff, get the hell out of here. That's like the Uber driver. He's like, look, man, they're going to take 30% of this ride. You think you could just, cancel it and send it right here? This is what I think is going to really, force Uber's hand into stop stealing so much money, is more, entrepreneurs that work with companies that do this find ways to opt out of being ripped off and opt into more I would say nuanced ways of doing money. It's
I mean, I hear the biggest argument is if you're a seller on eBay or whatever, right? How many times have you been screwed over by PayPal because the buyer's like, I never received the goods, you definitely received it, and then PayPal policy wise they always go on the buyer side. So you as a seller, as a merchant, you get screwed over. You have to take that hit, right? That's not fair. That's not fair to you.
Right, and it happens at big businesses too. I mean, you go to any major company like Walmart, and you could go in and say, somebody stole my credit card right after you went Christmas shopping. You'll get your money back. You get to keep all the presents you bought, and Walmart's out their items and their money. And they got to pay a fee for having a chargeback, claimed against them, and that goes down all the way to pizza stores, the mom and pop shops.
You can also game that system too. I will have to say the funniest thing I ever did here was my friend. He was getting his master's here in the U.S. He's from Mongolia, and he had a family and kids back there. He planned on raising his family over there, right, in Mongolia, and so he was gonna leave. And he was like, hey, can I buy Bitcoin with like credit cards? And I was like, I mean, do you care if your credit score is tanked for 10 years? And he was like, I don't plan on living here for 10 years. I'm out. I'm going to be in Mongolia. I was like, well, I mean, I'm not recommending anyone do this, and he wasn't a U.S. citizen. So, it wasn't like tax purposes either. But he racked up 40,000 credit cards, opened like 7 or 10 credit cards, and maxed them all out on buying Bitcoin, moved it to his own wallet, and then left the country and declared bankruptcy.
I'm with that. I can't legally recommend anybody do it, but I think that is awesome, and it's almost like signing up for 7 Blockbuster accounts while Blockbuster's on their way out. You're taking home some Blu-rays, because this economic system we have today that even acknowledges the FICO credit score won't exist in 5 or 10 years. So the debt that you rack up today getting some Bitcoin probably won't matter once we're at Bitcoin mainstream adoption, because this whole debt-based system that even acknowledges the debt that you owe won't exist.
So I have a question for you, Ken, actually. I have 2 options. How big do you think blockchain gaming is going to be, and what would make it go from sort of a niche thing to mass adoption wise?
I already think blockchain is the biggest video game ever created. I look at Bitcoin like a video game. Your computer could play Fortnite, or it could
like a game. I'm saying actual games. where
Oh,
instead of
all games will be blockchain based. Just as we've seen, legacy games go from, standalone arcade to, people, natting to people having online experiences, with multiplayer type. I think it's just an inevitable adoption. Like all mainstream video games will be somewhat blockchain based. So I think it will encompass the whole esports space, at least. Like anything that is considered an esport will be inevitably blockchain based, way before it's main. I mean, right now, even that's the funny thing is like gaming itself is still like an industry, right? It's not even a thing yet. It's becoming an industry, just like crypto is. I think it's a really funny tide to watch rise at the same time as blockchain rises. So does esports, and they're totally separate, but their
I'll
adopted
tell you.
phases are going up. I think they'll overlap, without a doubt, and we will see people playing video games using blockchain things like NFTs or cryptocurrencies just as frequently as we see people play on the internet itself.
So like a little bit of my journey was actually while I was in university. So one of I actually got to work on one of the first NFT games on Ethereum. It was actually before CryptoKitties. It's called World of Ether. And it's sort of crazy. I look at developing that game in 2017, near the end of 2017. It was released in 2018, and then now developing on it, like 40% of the code base on there is replaced. Infura replaces it. Like there was so much custom backend just to get that stupid NFT game out. And at the same time, actually, I created this company. I started the Blockchain and Mason Club at my school, and one of the projects we incubated was this project called Token Play, and it was a Steam platform, distribution platform. And I understood how toxic Steam is for game developers because I had also raised in this project $50,000 for on Kickstarter for a roller coaster tycoon dinosaur park game. One of my friends did it, and he asked me to help him out on it.
That was
And
you guys? I actually remember the Tycoon Kickstarter for the Jurassic Park type looking thing,
oh,
actually.
Mesozoica,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, I remember seeing that. That is friggin' cool.
And so, I got to learn Unity. That was pretty cool. But
Well,
we
Unity
spent,
does blockchain by default now. Ubisoft is doing all this by default now. If you're a game
but
developer, it's all there.
here's the economic side of it, though. We spent 3.5 years making that game until it actually got released, right? That 50,000, there's like, maybe 4 to 6 core guys and over 40 contractors, 40, 60, I'd say almost 80 contractors, like artists that worked on it in that time. And that was paid out of pocket. Like it was so frustrating on Kickstarter. Like you scammed us, you took this money, like this or that. I was like, dude, 50,000 is not, you can't make a game. It's really hard to make a game. You can do it. Like you can do it. Like you want it fast, cheap, and it works. Like you can't have all three, right? And so um after that like slog of development, and then we finally released on Steam, we did like maybe 300,000 in sales, and then after refunds we did about 220K in Steam sales. Out of the 220K, Steam takes 30% of that.
Holy shit.
It is insane. Like I literally, it's literally being robbed. And but the thing is, you don't have options because Steam is the distribution. They have a monopoly on distribution. So like, what is the point? And so I tried to create Token Play at the time, and what happened was I just had really incredible timing. It was funny. I was sending emails about Token Play for like the beginning, late 2016, early 2017, and people just like ignored me. And then like near the end of November of 2017, Bitcoin is almost like 10, 15K. Suddenly I'm getting old email replies like, hey, are you still working on this? Like, can you hop on a call? And what happened was it was acquired by like a publicly traded company in Toronto. And so I ended up moving and living in Toronto for a couple of weeks to do it. And we actually presented at E3 in 2018. And when we launched, we had about 15 games at launch with about 9 studios. And they were all, it was all, they're not AAA studios, they're not AAA games. Majority of game developers are not AAA games. And if you think you're a small studio and you can't come out with innovative stuff, look at Hello Games. Look at No Man's Sky. You know, what a small team over a long period of time that is continuously developing, continuously working on it. You can actually come out with good stuff. It just takes time. And unfortunately, I think I was just a little bit too early at the time, and it is what it is. Also, I did not agree with management on a lot of things.
Isn't that the worst feeling though, is being too early for something, right? Like seeing the fact that, like, you know, and I said this to a lot of people that have come out with projects throughout the past couple of years, but the most recent this year, who have started to come out with projects, and I'm like, you know, it's got to feel some type of way to actually have something that, you know, you're building, have something with some utility, and get lost in the echo of all the bullshit that, you know, it won't work, you can't do this, and then in 2 years later you see everybody doing it because it's common. And it's just like, I've been doing this for 2 years, but it doesn't matter because now everyone's doing
timing. It really is timing and luck. I tell people all the time, like, you can work your ass off, you can be incredibly intelligent, this or that, but if you don't have timing and luck, you will not succeed. Like it's that unfortunate.
I feel like a lot of billionaires don't acknowledge the fact that they got a little bit luck. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, Mark Cuban says this.
Yeah.
Mark Cuban really straight up says, he's like, if I could go back right now, he was like, if I didn't do radio.com, he's like, I don't know, I'd do something, I'd be a multimillionaire. I know that for a fact, just for my work ethic, this or that. Would I be a billionaire? Hell no. I got lucky as shit. He even said it himself. And that's why I respect Mark, because he's self-aware enough to know that, you know, he got, like, the guy who created, you know, SMTP, right? Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. He's not rich. He didn't get, he's not rich from Google. You know who got rich? Google did when they created Gmail on top of his protocol. You know, and then like honestly, when I hear like how Mark Cuban got rich of like literally putting radio on the internet is just the most, like, it is such a low IQ play, but honestly, it's not bad. Like I can't knock the hustle. I would just sound like a hater if I did.
Well, that's where I see, you know, gaming on the blockchain is sort of similar to the same thing, like radio on the internet. You know, right now, people are like, that's just, it's a lot of steps. It doesn't seem like it makes sense, blah, blah, blah. Eventually, it'll be so ubiquitous, like, you won't play a video game unless it has blockchain incorporated in it. Why? Because you'll probably be wasting your time rather than playing a game that is more of an investment than a time burner. You know, you level up this character, you could sell it at the end of the day because it's a tokenized in-game asset, as opposed to these centralized versions of them like Fortnite. People are leaving these games after spending years playing them because they're starting to get jaded. They're starting to feel a little upset that they're investing so much of their lives into something and getting nothing out of it. And it's happening as a mass exodus for everything, as far as like using Google search. More people are going to DuckDuckGo and other things where they feel like maybe my data won't be, you know, profited against me or something, or maybe I could use Brave browser and maybe make something as they take something. And I think that going into the gamified world, it's just, I'm ready to see blockchain gaming be the on-ramp to mainstream adoption for Bitcoin. I've said this since 2017. It won't be unbanking yourself that will make blockchain and cryptocurrency mainstream. It'll be owning your own assets, whether they're your house, your car, whatever, your driver's license, your in-game characters. These assets that will be tokenized, those things are going to mainstream adopt everything else. And it's going to start with gaming. It's going to start with the youth, the kids that are growing up playing these games, becoming mature adults, and then passing that information on to their kids. Don't play this game. Why don't you play that one? Same way I would tell my kids, you know, if you're going to play Pokemon, maybe put a couple aside as an investment vehicle. This is the kind of stuff our generation will pass down, and the generation that's under us will pass that down to them, saying, maybe don't play Fortnite because that John Wick skin, you don't really own it. But if you play Splinterlands, that card, you own it. You can rent it out. You could lease it. You could sell it to somebody. You know, you could do things with this. I think blockchain gaming is the last straw, which will be the first and last straw to really break the adoption back. It will kickstart it, and I think again it's going to come from the youth. A lot of these kids that are going to start playing these blockchain games are going to make a lot of money right in front of their parents' eyes.
I agree with that, but that's a chicken and egg problem, right? So for the new youth to come into these new games, developers need to come up with games. And to do that,
we're seeing them left and right. Have you seen the Blankos game? Blankos is like AAA NFT blockchain gaming. Like,
but no, not even that. It's like we need to like how ICOs disrupted startup funding. We need to disrupt gaming. Like how can developers come out with games and be rewarded for it without having to raise money, and they actually get it from their own community, profit sharing, whatever it may be. And I think the future is where you actually have governance over your own game. Like, how cool would it be is that, like, you're playing Apex, right? And they are coming out with a new champ or a new gun or a new skin, and they have a poll. And you get points throughout playing Apex. Every dub you get an Apex coin or whatever. And at the end, you know, you own it, whatever.
So you're basically talking like a DAO, like a blockchain gaming DAO.
Yes, there needs to be, like, you need to be like, hey, what kind of updates do you want? Do you want a new champion? Do you want a reskin or this or that? And how cool is that the people who play the game the most, right, will have the most amount of tokens. So their voice will matter. Why? Because they're the ones most effective. They're the ones using the platform.
I'm with you on this, but I also see the negatives to this, right? Now you have those majority, I would say somewhat centralized, even though it is decentralized. It's centralized to the point of the best and most active earned players. How do we stop nefarious consensus? By nefarious consensus, I mean shit like fucking slavery. Like, that shit was agreed upon by a majority of our population, and the consensus was slavery's good. Took a long fucking while for people to get to the consensus of slavery bad. What happens when people that are at the majority of this voting mechanism in blockchain gaming especially, how do we prevent people from accidentally fucking it up for the rest of us, where they think it's a good thing to vote on, but at the end of the day, shit sucks, you know?
I think morally and ethically, I can't stop anyone to gain central control of a network. The only way you can really stop it is, you know, I don't tell people, oh, Chinese miners are dominating Bitcoin, like, we need to shut them down. No, that's an archaic view of thinking about things, because that's a typical statist view. Like, we need regulatory mode, we need anti-monopoly laws, this or that. If you think Chinese miners are dominating the space, create more miners, increase the network, increase usage, increase adoption. And eventually, after you have if you have a wide enough distribution, no single individual or entity can gain central control. But that does require you to not put your assets on centralized services like exchanges. I see a very big problem with POS and Ethereum ETH2 on a fundamental governance level, where the majority of users leave their funds on exchanges, and exchanges will vote for them.
Yep.
And this is exactly the problem that happened in EOS and DPoS. It's not as bad on EOS, you know. On EOS, there's 21 people controlling, whatever, right? But out of those 21, 15 are handpicked by exchanges themselves, because they own all the stakes. They can vote the most. And, you know, I think in Ethereum it's going to be worse, because Ethereum was pre-mined. There was an ICO. There are some big whales in Ethereum that people don't realize that once it switches to proof of stake, they can bully you. And no matter, you can have a great initiative, you can have a great proposal, and you will get voted down on it, because that proposal might be beneficial for the majority of users, but it's negative to whales, right?
Right, or the whales would vote it down and then steal it and vote it up themselves once they've stolen it and downvoted your proposals. That's happened.
So, I mean, fundamentally, I think pretty much it's just like, we just need more people to, you know, every miner that you put up. If you think right now that you having a miner in your dorm room won't matter, it does matter. It matters in the sense of that every single node that is live is another node decentralizing it. You are fighting the system, and you as an individual probably don't matter. But, you know, there's a lot of college students in America with free electricity right now that if they all ran an Ethereum miner or a Bitcoin miner or whatever, right? They would secure the network, and that would fight against the tide. And to me, the tide will come, whatever, right? I don't think there's really anything you can do about it. And with censorship, decentralized technology, you can't do anything about it. You can't just tell governments to crack down on them or this or that. It's just impossible. There will always be a new person looking for opportunity. There will always be another person taking advantage of arbitrage on a electricity level, infrastructure, regulatory level, whatever it is. And I'm really scared for the U.S. because it is their views are so like we have 70-year-olds in Congress making these laws and regulations that can't they don't even know what Facebook is. So how the hell are you going to even try to explain to them what Libra is or the dangers of Libra, this or that? The only reason they bash on Libra is because the bankers told them to.
Yep.
And then I'll tell you, my Alex Jones tinfoil conspiracy theory is what's going to happen is China's already launched their CBDC. They've launched their digital dollar. And what's going to happen is WeChat, there's a lot of Chinese people not in China. They're in Southeast Asia. They have businesses there. They're in Africa. And what's going to happen is they're going to be able to receive loans from the CCP, get it in their digital dollar, and they're going to be able to spend it in those local communities. And why is the Chinese government going to allow that? Because with their central bank currency, they can freeze any account. They can take your money back, whatever they can do. So they don't mind having the capital flow out. The only reason there's capital flow restrictions in China is because they can't control fiat. But if they have a central bank CBDC, they can control that, and they will allow capital flow because they have they don't just have control inside the China ecosystem. They have operate in Malaysia, Thailand, Africa, Zambia.
Finally, somebody's competing with the petro.
But so what's going to happen is the U.S. dollar hegemony is going to be directly attacked like they've never been before. And it's not based off policy decisions, but based off technology innovation exponentially increasing their growth. And US is going to panic. And what's going to happen is they're going to say, this is a matter of national security. We need to fully back Facebook and Libra so that Libra and the US dollar will be the global
and now they'll pick Facebook because they have as many, or not as many, but enough end users to almost compete with the end users of WeChat.
They can, and I mean, at the end of the day, it's simply Mark Zuckerberg is an American citizen. It's a U.S. company. They're here. They have every incentive. You know, they're the only difference is, you know, WeChat's backed by the government. They have funding from the central banks. They have the regulatory protections to expand.
Dude, you know what I thought was crazy about WeChat? It's accepted in Vegas. Every fucking casino in Vegas accepts WeChat at like the table, the bar, the restaurant. WeChat is more accepted in Vegas than fucking PayPal.
I mean, Asians are extreme gamblers. So the most recent project I've been working on the past 2 years was YoungBet, a decentralized casino. And I went through China to raise money, and I went to Macau. And that was probably like the craziest experience. Like, I've never imagined, like, you think Vegas is crazy, right? It's a city just built on gambling, right? Imagine a whole country, literally a whole country just meant to support gambling. And it is explosive. And the whole idea behind YoungBet was actually, we wanted profit sharing casino, but the real value was I wanted to do esports betting. So the whole idea was that, you know, League of Legends, this or that, esports right now, I think online gambling, it's like $390 million this past year. And the next 2 years, by end of 2021, it will reach 1.3 billion. And that's going to be the market for esports betting. Now, if you look at traditional online gambling, that's online gambling is going to go from 51 billion to almost 60 billion. So it's peanuts compared to online gambling, but online gambling is peanuts compared to physical gambling as well. And like you said with esports gambling and actually the legalization of sports betting is actually it's going to drive a lot of volume in the U.S. And basically, why would you do esports? You're like, to gamble on YoungBet, you would have to be a fan of esports. You would have to be you like gambling, and you understand blockchain, right? So that's my target audience is basically a 25 to 35-year-old South Korean male gambling on League of Legends. You know,
Very niche.
it's niche, but it's a global because these games are global, right? Fortnite, all these games are global. So you have all these esports betting sites, but they're all regionalized. They're all regionalized to their
Yeah.
countries, and that's just because of regulation. And you know, what I've had issues with is, we've built our product, this or that, and I'm going through the regulatory process right now of going through Isle of Man, but Corona pretty much shut down all government entities and travel, so that's put the project a little bit on standby. But I think it's one of those things that if you can get past the regulation and you can break in, you will end up capturing extreme amount of market share from the online gambling, because the people playing online gambling, right, they play online poker, this or that. The average gambler age is like between 40 and 65. It's actually just a boomer or older millennials right now. Why? Because they have disposable income. They're in the highest earning periods right now where they can gamble for fun. Esports gambling is a whole new generation. It is a complete new set of users onboarding into the system. And like you said, they don't want to gamble on NFL games, right? They want to gamble on Fortnite or NBA 2K.
I just want
And
to bet on Ninja.
you can or bet on Ninja or streamers. Like, how cool would it be if you could buy an NFT of Ninja, and depending on how much Twitch money comes in, he profit shares to that.
Well,
Like
that's where
you,
I was going to get with the airdrops when we were talking about Dinar, and I kind of segued away from it, but I guess this is a good way to get back to, like, the airdropping mechanism, right? Like, that's, I think, a really cool mechanic that, like, Uniswap and a lot of these foodies kind of, like, kind of pulled out of nowhere. But I think that mechanic has a lot of power. Maybe something with like the Dinar application where, the most active users, one random person gets a couple, currency, or I forget what it was called already.
no, SETI, that's the
SETI,
US.
yeah. So like you could do like a SETI airdrop with Dinar, or even with like people using Young Bet, which I saw the chat looking for it. It's YUNG.BET Young Bet. Using that platform, I could maybe if I have a decent amount of bets that went in, and I could be put in a pool with a specific amount of people that are active and engaged users, and maybe there's like I don't want to say lottery. I prefer airdrop, but it does sort of come off like a lottery-esque vibe. I think
Well,
that's an amazing economic like game theory tool to apply to projects, is a way to just airdrop and motivate active users.
have you seen Pool Together? It's actually a no loss lottery system.
I
What you
saw
do,
that, yeah.
yeah, I think that's like one of the coolest things I've seen. The whole idea, if you don't know what Pool Together is, basically you put for viewers, if you basically put in your die, it puts it in a compound pool. I forgot which pool it is, and it earns interest. And at the end of it, you get your die back, and one person will receive all the interest for that week or whatever. And that's like the coolest thing ever. Now, like with airdrops, I think the power of airdrops is how you do it, right? If you just mass airdrop to every active ENS account or ENS domain, that's just toxic. Like you're just clogging the network, whatever. If you airdrop to people who sign up, like the free airdrops, this or that, I think it's just a way of a fair distribution model. Like any coin is the success of it is really depending on its distribution, how the cycle is being released. Like why Bitcoin is so powerful and popular is it has a fair distribution model. Everyone can get in and the difficulty scales. So, you know, I think with airdrops, I don't know if I don't know if I think airdrops will just become normal. Like they won't be a special thing after a while. It's just I think what it will become is airdrops will just become the new rewards program.
Yep.
Like, hey, after you spent you spent over $1,000 on Splinterland, we're airdropping the new card for all of the different tiers.
And they do that, which is funny.
Oh, really? Okay. So yeah. So I didn't even know that. So like that is I think it incentivizes the community that has been loyal, that's been supporting the project from the very beginning. And then, but what are you airdropping? NFTs? Are you airdropping the profit share? Are you airdropping a new governance token? I think, what you're airdropping also matters.
Right.
And, the explosion of governance tokens is like, you know, the reason these exchanges or whatever, the reason they don't have a governance token is because they're scared of regulation. And then what will happen? You have Uniswap, right? Then you have literally a sushi fork. Sushi fork, like people say that Vamp attacked the liquidity on Uniswap. If you can call Sushi Swap a Vamp attack on Uni, I would say Tron is a vampire attack on Ethereum and EOS for stealing their stuff. So it's nothing new. Vamp attacks are new. What do Vamp like? At the end of the day, you can Vamp and copy it and do a slight tweak and adds value. And people say, like, that might not be that's toxic, or you stole the majority of value, you didn't contribute. You don't, that governance token, the sushi token, if they didn't do that, if Sushi Swap did not happen, the Uniswap airdrop, I guarantee you, would not have happened as soon as it did. The demand was so overwhelming and it was so strong. And Hayden literally did a bigger stimulus check, a decentralized protocol, literally did a bigger stimulus check than the United States government.
Absolutely. And this is where I'm getting at, to kind of segue back to our original topic at the beginning, where we were talking about how many Americans and people in general don't have money to invest. They don't have a real disposable income to kind of throw at this experimental money. I believe the majority of the world that will be on-ramped into crypto will be done so through the means of airdropping. People, the average, the majority will not buy their assets. They will earn them through mechanics X, Y, and Z, filling out a form, signing up for the platform, using the platform. Majority of the world will get their crypto for free at first, and then it will continuously, I believe, be an earned model rather than a bought model. But right now we have buying and selling rather than earning and trading. So earning and trading is coming.
Did you see the Fold app or whatever where you can do purchases?
Yeah, I got their card. I just got approved for their credit card.
Oh, so yeah, so you think that's going to be the new way of, instead of paying for assets, just use this, and then I hear.
Even if you don't have money on Fold, you can open the Fold app once a day, get a shot at getting money, and now you have a chance to go out and spend something. You didn't even have to do anything but download the app, hit the button, and maybe get some Satoshis. Now you can go out and spend it. So I think that's the future model of the world economy, will be an earn and trade rather than buy and sell. And most of the people I talk to, when I say, like, oh, how can I get Bitcoin? I'm not telling them how to buy it. I'm telling them how to earn it. Majority of the people I talk to, they don't have money to buy Bitcoin. So the only way they're going to get crypto is if I show them, Fold app or any other way to get some kind of like airdropped currency. That's their only option. The option to buy isn't even on the table. They need to borrow money from me while we're talking about Bitcoin so they can buy food for home. You know what I mean? So how are they going to buy Bitcoin if they need to borrow money from me while they're talking to me about Bitcoin? Well, sign up for Hive, use SoMe. There's so many social media platforms that have gamified economies that if you were to opt out of Facebook and maybe start using Rebuzz, you could earn crypto just by doing what you normally do in your everyday life.
Games like Splinterlands, like, you're earning, to the US user, right? You earn 50 cents, right? After playing a couple hours or whatever, or $1, maybe $5. I'll give $5-10. I would say that.
I earn about 1,000 dark energy crystals after an hour or two of playing, which is only about $1 or $2 an hour.
Okay, yeah. So $1 or $2 an hour. What is the value of that, right? Imagine you're in the Philippines, you're in Africa, you're in South America, all that. That's a living wage. Mm-hmm. That is literally a living wage right now. And what are you doing? You're just playing a game.
Yeah, that you're right. That is a first world perspective I'd have on that, where it's like, I just play for $1. It's nothing. I can't even make a collect call. But somebody in Venezuela is like, I played for 5 days and I paid my rent for this month.
So, that is, I think, that those would be the secondary effects where you're positively impacting people's lives while also just trying to make a game and make money. It's like you're not really trying to do it, but it just happens, right? And people in desperate situations are always innovative on how they can scramble, how they can get that last percentage, how they can do this or that small hustle, right? Why do you see on Fiverr all the time people like, I would literally write your whole paper for $5? You're like, what can you buy for $5? Like, some places a lot, you know? So I think there's going to be, I think basically we're creating new economies. There's going to be new jobs and all of this stuff. And like you said, with the new avenue of creators, right? Of Twitch with Substack blowing up right now, especially Substack blowing up in time of Corona. I think there's going to be a new whole industry of cottage people gaming for a living in other places where that's their career. That's what they do to earn their income.
I can see
And
YoungBet really helping their audience too, man. Like a lot of streamers, like I know Ninja probably and other people that have made it gaming feel some type of way that it's hard to give back to the community, right? And it's like they reach out for sponsored opportunity, things like that. But if they could find a way to, build that NFT and distribute it to their audience and I mean, you have sports athletes like from the NBA, the NFL tokenizing their fucking football and basketball contracts for their fans. Like these esports and gamers and streamers, as they get bigger, they're going to want to bring their community up with them. And I think it's going to be through like self-tokenization. Ninja coins coming, whether we like it or not. Ninja NFTs. I think a lot of these influencers will have their own everything, but a way to get their viewers involved.
ERC20?
Me? Yeah. I have my own shitcoin on like any blockchain that you could think of that you can make a shitcoin on top of. I've done it. The first blockchain I made my shitcoin on was Waves Network. Waves was like,
Waves
dude,
is garbage, dude.
yeah, but it was so easy. Like one Waves coin, I can make Ken coin. I mean, that took less than 30
I haven't
seconds.
heard that token in so long.
I think Waves is underappreciated. Like it's
the Russian Ethereum. That's what I kept hearing. I was like, but Vitalik's Russian, so I was like, that doesn't make sense.
Well, he's technically Canadian. I was just gonna say he's
Yeah.
technically Canadian.
Okay, but ethnically, he met Putin. All right, come on.
Yeah, that's true.
He's not meeting Justin Trudeau.
That was my buy signal, bro. He met Putin, and I was like, well, I'm buying. I mean, I'm not missing out before the Russian government gets involved.
So actually, tell me about this idea. Like, this was actually my hackathon project last month. So I launched my own ERC20 Toma. I have 88 million supply, and I'm launching a balancer pool, right? And so I actually need other ERC20 creators, like personal token creators. And so the whole idea is you'd be classified as a large cap influencer. So, we'd have a large cap influencer basket pool. All the top people that have their own personal tokens, they're in that pool, right? Then you have a small cap influencer pool, guys like me, no one knows about. I keep pretty low key, honestly, like online. I just work. So you have that. Then you have a mixed bag of high cap, low cap personal tokens. Maybe me and you are in this pool, right? So what happens is it's basically an ETF on investing in personal tokens.
I like it.
And I think that I actually met Fabian Voxteller, the creator of ERC20, 2 years ago at a Fluidity conference in New York. And he was his whole presentation was that community and meme coins, or whatever you want to call it, will drive the most amount of adoption in the next 5 years, because the people who are these huge influencers, right? Like Lil Yachty is about to come out with his coin. How many people know who Lil Yachty is?
I'm getting Yachty coin, bro. I'm getting a big boat with little boat.
But now, so imagine this. What if you could invest in a balancer pool of a bunch of rappers' personal tokens and whatever it is, or tech influencers, VCs, whatever.
Right, Akon just launched his coin,
But that's not a personal token. I'm saying personal.
It's called a coin. It's kind of personal. But you're right. It's not well, two people that I actually really admire in this space that have personal currencies that are ERC20s that I highly value these coins that are just individual currencies, which is Coin from Coin Artist Marguerite. I provide liquidity with Coin on Uniswap. I earn cred, I stake cred, and I farm NFTs. I fucking love that. And then Vesa has his own currency, and as an artist, he creates amazing art that sells for Ethereum on like Rarible, OpenSea, stuff like that. And he also now accepts his own currency as well as Ethereum. So if he's accepting 1 ETH for this piece of art, or 1,000 of his own coins, he basically just made his coins, 1,000 of them equal 1 ETH, which I think is a really genius way to provide value to your own individual tokens.
I mean, the real value is like, if I launch my token, right, and you want to pay me for consulting, it costs $400. Let's say it costs $400 an hour, right, for my consulting fee. You can pay me $400 in cash, crypto, or I'll take a 20% discount if you go buy, if you pay me in
Bro,
Toma token.
have you been like watching every podcast I've ever done? I've been talking about doing this for a long time, but more so for myself as a sponsor token. So if you want your ads to be on my podcast, you have to
Yeah,
have,
pay in Ken.
yeah, you
You
have
gotta
to,
pay
you
in
have to
Ken.
go to
Yeah.
the exchange, you have to buy Ken, and then you have to give me Ken, and then we will agree on what we could do for sponsoring.
And then what happens to your personal token? Suddenly there's volume. There's suddenly people buying it. And that volume is based directly on your output, right? If you don't put out content, if no one wants to watch your videos, no one's going to buy that shit.
If I get
And
hit by a bus, it actually might go up. May have a Picasso effect.
so then you're, say, like, all right, maybe in my Solidity dev work is not that good, but maybe in, 3 years, I can charge 2,000 an hour, right? So suddenly that token just went up 5%
Yep.
or 5x or whatever.
Yep.
So I think everyone, if your audience is watching, look up Coinvise. Actually, they have a whole thing where if you can't code, you don't know Solidity, you're too scared about it and managing it, they are launching. It's an engine for personal tokens, and I think it's the future. However, if you really care, I would take the time. It's really not that hard to launch a personal token
It's
and
not.
just do
It's
it.
so much fun too. I mean, it's just cool to be. And I have this as my Twitter quote. It's be your own Satoshi. Everybody should be their own Satoshi. Satoshi made Bitcoin. You should make KenCoin or whatever Tomo. Everybody should make their own currency, at least to do it. Try it. See that. Get that experience of what it was like to be Satoshi, even if it's for yourself, and then provide value to it through your own utility. I mean, I had the privilege of being able to speak to Andreas Antonopoulos in Vegas about this exact topic, where, he's even talking about how every individual will have their own currency and there will be some form of like, self-taxation as I, distribute my coin through giveaways and I barter with my currency. It will, it will be like a different type of a taxation because now, market cap, liquidity and flowing and stuff like it's just, I believe in it. And I think every business that has a loyalty rewards program will have their own currency and blockchain to go with it.
I don't know about their own blockchain. I don't think everyone should have their own blockchain. To
No,
be
I think
true.
they will at first. Nobody's going to want to conform to Ethereum because they're not Ethereum whales. So McDonald's knows that if they build on Ethereum, they're only going to make Ethereum investors richer. Why would they do that? So what they're
What
going
if
to
they
do is
did
build
it
their
like
own and then realize they wasted time, they wasted money, and yes, they will inevitably opt into a chain. But I think they're all going to fight tooth and nail to have their own chains and then try to do interoperability and then concede to, whatever mainstream chain may be Ethereum.
This is why people don't realize, like in the EOS community, Young Bets built on EOS is actually on a side chain of EOS. And the whole EOS Dan Larimer philosophy is that 1,000 side chains all scaling at once, and each side chain has their own purpose. And the reason no one hears about Block One is because they're focused on enterprise solutions only. And I think a Costa Rica BP, one of the block producers, actually won a federal government federal contract for a secure messaging platform. And the contract, they had bids from a Hyperledger, Ethereum, and EOS. And they chose EOS because they thought their side chain, their government chain version was actually the best version of it. And I think everyone, they might not have their, so yes, they will have their own chain, but it'll be probably a side chain or a fork,
Right.
whatever governance that your corporate entity needs, because you need those protections. And I think that actually, I guess on this point, everyone likes to talk about tokenize this, tokenize everything, tokenize the world, right? What is something you can't tokenize?
I don't know. I feel like I could tokenize anything with the right IoT.
Exactly. Like, what is something that would actually be detrimental to tokenize? This is what I've always thought. Like, everyone talks about
The
what
worst thing to tokenize would be
what
freedom
shouldn't
itself.
you tokenize?
Freedom itself. I think that's what a lot of people have
I
issues
know a
with,
lot
like
of
the
people who would sell their freedom and stuff. Like, I think people would definitely do some indentured servitude contracts on a smart contract.
Yeah,
Like,
that's why I think freedom being tokenized would be bad, because there's a lot of cucks out there that would like to be domed, and they would just give up their entire stake portfolio of their own coin or something to somebody else to just like, here, now you own me. Yeah, we might run into that problem.
financial domination.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, there's girls out there that you can pay to spend your money for you on themselves while demeaning you while they do it. It's called financial domination.
Like a sugar daddy?
Sort of, but like a sugar daddy that gets treated like shit and his money just keeps getting spent. It's a real thing. Don't Google it. But yeah, that's a thing. People are into it. A lot of rich people out there, or people with money, even people without money that are like fucking probably going homeless because of this addiction. They like being dominated financially. They like people, here's my credit card info. Hope you don't buy a new car with it.
I mean,
So those people would probably fall into that tokenized aspect of like, yeah, I want to be a tokenized slave.
I mean, you know what? I believe in personal liberty in the sense of you should have the freedom to do whatever you want, and if you choose to if you voluntarily choose to give up your freedom, you should be able to do it. Like, that's like saying you shouldn't be able to buy heroin. I think you should.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. The problem that most, or not most, but some people may have with that is, what if they're too stupid to be responsible for their own decisions? Where do we fall in as a community, right? Like the tribe has to raise each other. Aren't we responsible for our weakest links if we're not doing everything we can to strengthen those links?
I would just call out the people that are being exploitive over these people. But at the same time, like, you trying to stop them from doing it, it's a voluntary exchange, right? They choose to do it. They're not being coerced. There's no one forcing a gun to their head. At the end of the day, people and as individuals need to take personal agency over their life. They need to understand that actions have consequences, and whether good or bad. And if you can operate in that system without coercion, then you're fine. Like, I think the biggest thing people don't realize is they think they're not enslaved right now, right? Your passport is a slave card, and people wonder, like, what does that mean? Like, the U.S. is the only country in the world that when you go earn income in another country, you don't live in the U.S., you still have to pay income tax. It's the only country in the world. Why? And it's because no one likes when their slaves run off the plantation, and you as a human capital, that's what all it is. And it's one of the weirdest paradoxes I see. People every year, they complain about taxes. They always bitch and moan about taxes, like, oh, fuck the government, I hate my taxes, this or that. And what did they do? They just end up paying their taxes. And they don't find any alternative. They don't think about loopholes. They don't think about opportunity zones. They don't think about how ways you can, optimize your taxes.
Or as easy as just not doing it, right?
I don't recommend that at all.
I don't either, but I don't acknowledge taxation. It's not even a thing in my reality.
You can acknowledge taxation or not, but that U.S. passport, buddy.
I know. Trust me. I've been to Hong Kong and for work, and just mentioning I was working in Hong Kong, and that was just such an issue. I'm just like, I'm not making that much, guys. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But everyone was like, how much are you making? I'm like, oh man, I shouldn't have said I was. So actually, if you ever travel, never mention it's for work. It's always for pleasure. Because that conversation sucks at fucking at Homeland, where you're talking at the Homeland. At least for me, I always get stuck talking to Homeland Security because they're like, "Why are you here?" I'm like, "I'm going to a conference to speak about Bitcoin." It's just never a good start.
You can always just say, "Oh, I'm a student going to a conference to learn." That's
right.
Always.
That's where I started saying after Token 2049 in Hong Kong. Every time I travel, they just said I'm going to learn at a conference. I'm attending a conference. I'm learning about blockchain technology. Blah blah blah. But,
I mean, like.
But I didn't even know that was a problem until I accidentally opened my mouth at a border once and said I was in the country for work. And I was just like, oh, you want taxes for everything.
Going into Canada, they are, like, people talk about immigration in the U.S. is harsh. Canadian immigration is really, really hard. People don't realize this. It is really hard.
I'm working on becoming an illegal immigrant myself right now, actually. I booked a flight to Canada for January 1st. I did this probably 4 months ago, and I already have rent paid for my apartment for the first 3 months of next year. Fingers crossed they let me on the airplane to travel, but I don't plan on coming back. I'm just going to be an illegal immigrant.
Here's the crazy thing about regulation in Canada. So it's all like based on provinces or whatever. So in Ontario and Toronto, right, when you want to hire a new person as a Canadian company, you need to prove, you have to write why you're hiring not a Canadian to do this job. You need to literally justify the hire, and you have to say, oh, we don't have the skill, this or that. Like, you have to justify. You can't just hire another person. They're like, you should hire a Canadian to do it. It's absolutely insane. It is. But then again, I will say I'm a little hypocritical. I bash on socialism and leftism. However, I did use the Canadian government game developer fund. They actually have a $60 million fund, the Canadian government, for game developers and studios to support the ecosystem, to increase STEM jobs in Canada. And my whole E3 booth, 70% of that was paid by the Canadian government.
Oh, cool. Well, you found a way to game that system. Respect.
I mean, hey, I employ Canadians, so it did its job. So I was able, with that funding, that not spending that much money on E3 allowed me to employ at least 10 developers in Canada that were making, $60,000 to $90,000.
Wow, man, that is pretty impressive, bro. You're a badass, bro. Is there anything? Honestly did not expect us to go for 2 hours. Normally, this is a 1 hour podcast, and I cannot let you go, but I'm gonna have to now. I wanted to see if there's any topics or anything that you wanted to make sure we covered, or if there's any questions or anything that you wanted to talk about before we go.
I guess depending on when this airs,
we're live.
Anyone watching this, for the love of fucking God, do not buy fucking gifts this holiday season. Please do not participate in Black Friday. Please do not buy shit for the Sabbath, for Christmas. Please do not do this. The best thing you can do right now is buy some crypto this holiday season. It doesn't matter what it is. Buy some Bitcoin, buy some altcoins. Just go on Coinbase and shotgun invested, whatever. And you know what? Delete the app. Delete the app. Forget it exists. And then open the next holidays. And I guarantee you, your next Christmas next year, you will be able to buy 10x of your gifts. Do not support right now, especially in Corona, when all of these small businesses are being fucked over by big corporations giving government subsidies and protections. Do not support them. Just don't do it, man. Like, if you really care about your community, if you care about your town, you care about the people in it, don't support them. If you have to buy a gift, go fucking spend 20, 30% premium. Or better yet, just don't do it. In Corona, I think this is the best time. Like, it's not about materialism. We're on Zoom call now. Like, spend time with your family. Tell them you love them. Work on yourselves. Stop watching politics. Stop pretending like the president actually affects your life, and really just improve on yourself, man. Work on yourself. Take care of yourself. If you can take care of yourself, you can take care of your family. If you can take care of that, you can take care of your friends.
That's the important thing.
But if you can't take care of yourself, you can't get to those stages. And, once you reach that trifecta of you can take care of yourself, you can take care of your family, you can take care of your friends, then you can go on the effective altruistic route of trying to change the world, this or that. But right now, most people, you just need to have focus on your self-interest, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've opted out of the holidays since Bitcoin. Actually, I really haven't celebrated Christmas or anything like that through religious, personal reasons. But yeah, I mean, ever since, getting into more of a frugal financial mentality, I'm not falling for the traps that are set anymore. And right now, especially during lockdown, a lot more people have a lot less money, and they're feeling more pressured now than ever to spend what little they have left on a holiday that it's only going to leave them worse off if they do spend what little they have left. I think you're right, man. If you're going
The
to
only
buy a
fake
gift, buy
holiday-
some crypto. Give the gift of crypto. Secret Satoshi instead of Secret Santa this year.
Actually, no. Screw that. I recommend everyone don't give anyone crypto to your family because they'll just sell it or they won't hold it. I've had this experience way too many times. Screw that.
Just show them the Fold app and they can get free sats.
No, just do the typical, use your referral link shills, use your Coinbase shills, do that. Or Coinbase Earn. Coinbase Earn right now, you can make almost 60, 80, $100 just from watching videos. And you don't even need to click. You can try as many times. I think right now, if you show your family Coinbase and then get them on Coinbase Earn, you will open them a gateway because suddenly now for free, they have access to all these different chains.
Mm-hmm.
They can use this. Get them to then download the Coinbase wallet, which is a separate wallet, the wallet.
Used to be called Toshi.
Yeah, Toshi. And then take the money you got from Coinbase Earn for free and then transfer that into Compound on there. Let them earn interest on whatever they got for free, right? Maybe 50, $100. And then they will see that value growing. I think that's the best thing you can do for people. On fake holidays, on the ending note, I would say the only fake holiday I will, my tinfoil theory on this is the only fake holiday I support is, 420 is a fake holiday by Big Cannabis to sell you Doritos.
It's Doritos and Mountain Dew that started 420. Yeah.
And that's the only one the only one that my corporate overlords, you know what, screw it, I think I'll make that purchase. That's the only acceptable one.
I'm with you. That's definitely the holiday. That's my holiday. That's a real holiday because I mean, if it wasn't orchestrated by Doritos and Mountain Dew, right? It's the first national holiday decentrally created by a community that just kept growing and growing and growing to a point of mainstream awareness and then adoption, which is really crazy to think about. An underdog holiday as 420 now being celebrated world renowned because of legalization, recreational acceptance, and medical acceptance. This holiday is like, it went from a community meme holiday to a pretty much national holiday now. As we get,
I'll tell you this: if you're looking for an exit or when I should sell my Bitcoin, 69,420. That's set that as your sell zone, and bam, you can buy a Tesla with that.
He's not wrong. Oh my god, bro. 69,420. That's your stop loss or sell signals right there.
It's a
guys.
solid stop loss.
I agree. I'm with it, man. All right, guys, you guys heard it here, man. Thank you all for watching the live stream. Don't forget, every day somebody wins some crypto. All you have to do is like and comment, and 24 hours later, somebody's going to win. If you want to go ahead and request it, request $10 in USDT from FIO at KENN. That's FIO at Ken. You can open your Edge wallet, open up USDT, request the $10. You might get lucky. Somebody every day somebody wins. All right. So I appreciate everybody tuning in. As always, have a day.
Thanks for having me.
There are many different ways to buy Bitcoin, but the cheapest and fastest way to buy Bitcoin with cash is with a coin flip Bitcoin ATM. Coin flip ATMs allow anyone to buy Bitcoin with the lowest fees and within just a few steps. Hi, I'm Amy, and I'm one of the hundreds of store owners who partner with CoinFlip. In this convenient store, we host a CoinFlip Bitcoin ATM. We earn passive income, more foot traffic, and we get free advertising done by the CoinFlip team. Getting the ATM was easy. We just contact the CoinFlip team at info@coinflip.tech, and they handle everything with no cost to the store owner. This includes installation, maintenance, marketing, and even 24/7 customer service. We just provide a small space within the store. To get your own CoinFlip Bitcoin ATM and join the monetary revolution, contact CoinFlip today. info@coinflip.tech, or fill out the form at request.coinflip.tech. 773-800-0106.